Okay, I'm excited this morning. We've got Miss Ashlee Chapman with us today. She was referred by my good friend, Mr. Gregory McDaniel. So when I get that kind of recommendation and referral, I'm always excited to talk to that kind of person. So welcome, Ashlee.
Thank you. Yes, I'm super stoked to be here.
Yeah, so Ashlee, you were telling me a little bit about your story before we got on the call, and I'd love to just kind of give our audience a little brief rundown of kind of how you got to where you're at, and then we can dive into some like tactical information about how you approach lead generation and prospecting and everything else. So a little background.
Yeah, so I'm from Washington State, moved here in 2017. I was in car sales up in Washington before that. Got into real estate as an inside sales agent, so I was just cold calling all day long.
So
Um,
before you go on, when you say here, you're in San Diego now?
San Diego.
Okay,
Yes,
got it.
San
Yeah.
Diego. Moved to San Diego September or August 2017. Um, Been here since from Seattle. Started cold calling as an inside sales agent just all day long. You can only imagine the type of fun that was.
Soul
Like, I was like,
crushing fun.
yeah, like cold calling and car sales is not the same. It's
Right,
more of a warm phone call. And
right.
so here it was really cold. And so I learned really quickly that I had to get really good at that.
Yeah.
Started doing that, calling foreclosures, short sales, learned that realm of real estate, and then just dove right into distressed properties, everything
Wow.
from probate to code violation to, um, yeah, everything. It's everything. Uh, have been doing that for, I still cold call every once in a while.
Mhm.
It is kind of my thing. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, just, started flipping properties, still do short sales. I'm doing one right now and it's a good time.
So when you are doing less cold calling and more what you would call maybe a focused call and to somebody that's like going into a probate or code violation kind of thing or pre-foreclosure, foreclosure, do you consider that different than a straight cold call?
I do a
Why?
little bit.
Yeah. So tell me the difference. Like,
Yeah, so if so I I like to use the example like an expired versus a distressed phone call is very, very different. These people that are distressed, imagine how many investors there are in San Diego
yeah,
and how many distressed properties hit the market. And myself, like I'll get people who come to me as an agent and they're like, "Oh, I want to flip a house." Well, okay, I'm lined up in front of you and 5,000 other people, right? So how do you get to that person first? That phone call has to be very different. You have to set yourself so apart. So I found that my script just wasn't working in the beginning.
mm,
Like, hey, calling about your trustee sale date, or hey, calling about your court confirmation. Not a thing. So it's different, different in a sense, like, hey, this is Ashley. Do you remember me? How many people are calling these people?
right.
So many people. And it
Right.
just like gets the gears turning. And it is a very different phone call for me in that sense where I kind of use reverse psychology to get into the weeds.
Mm,
But if you're calling it expired, you're trying to find out why their last agent didn't sell their house, right? So
right. Yeah.
that's, I would say, less of a cold call and more of a why aren't you using me type of call.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand. Because you know they want to sell and you know that it's just a matter of who they're going to choose next, right?
Right. Yeah.
So let's talk about scripting for a second. So obviously, somebody that's made thousands and thousands and thousands of calls like you have,
Mhm.
you've developed your own scripting over time. I'm assuming, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So how does that happen? I mean, do you refine it? Is your own voice? Are you hearing other podcasts and like, oh, I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna make that work. How do you go about that process?
Oh, for me, I I hate listening to other scripts.
Yeah.
Keller Williams, bless their hearts, they're huge on scripting.
Mhm.
They have this whole playbook, right? None of
Yep.
that stuff has worked for me. I'm a huge advocate of finding something that works for you. And I have
Right.
like this personality over the phone, like I'm your best friend. I've known you for 500 years, and
Mhm.
you're gonna feel that when I call you. So I built my script around my personality and tonality
Yeah.
and mirroring and matching people the second they answer the phone. So if I call Jim and he says hello, I'm like, hello, is this Jim? I
Mm,
match him so well. People that subconsciously tells people that I'm the same as them. Okay.
yeah.
So I built it around psychology and mirroring their tone. Everything they do, I repeat it. And that changed my cold calling game.
Yeah, that's so interesting, actually, I think, because they often say it's not what you say, but how you say it, which is exactly what you're saying, right? You're actually getting into having them react to you as a person rather than what you're saying more than anything else, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
that's very, very, very interesting. I love that. So tonality and mirroring. Um,
Yeah.
Very interesting. Now let's talk about the opening, because I think the opening is the most important thing, right? Because if you can't get into conversation, you're dead, right?
Mhm.
So what is your classic opening? I mean, do you have a classic like this is what I use most of the time?
Every single time, "Hey, this is Ashley. Do you remember me?" Like every time. And people think it is so good, but I'm not kidding. I just kind of came up with that on the fly.
Uh-huh.
Um, because the script that I was using before, the one that I was kind of taught was like, "Hey, this is so and so with such and such company. I'm calling about your trustee sale date." It just was like, "No, I don't like that." Everybody's saying that, okay?
Yeah, yeah,
So, it's like people are just hanging up on me. And
yeah,
so it's like, these people are getting so many phone calls. If I just say, "Hey, this is Ashley, do you remember me?" Somebody's bound to say, "Yeah." Well, and
yeah.
it turns out like 80% of people say, "Oh, maybe."
How do you follow that up? Because if they say, I mean, what if they say no? Who are you? You're like, oh, well, what do you say next? What's the next step?
Oh, so funny. Okay, so I just say like, "You know what? I know it's been forever. I should have called you sooner. I'm so sorry. What's going on? Like, is there a scenario in which you'd entertain an offer on that property? On your property on 123 Main Street?" I don't, there are scripts and there are a lot of things that say to verify the owner and all this stuff.
Yeah.
No, if they answer the phone and I verify it's the name that has the same address, that is, if it ends up being the wrong person, that's one thing,
Right.
which is rare.
Yeah.
So yeah, I go straight into that because then it's like, oh wow, yeah, she should have called me sooner. They kind of like jump at you. They're like, oh yeah, I have an issue and I'm here to
Right.
solve their problem.
How interesting. Because what's interesting about that is, and you're hitting this right on the head, is because there are a ton of people that have already called them and they've forgotten all these agents' names, right?
Yeah.
So that's brilliant, actually, when you think about it. When you're targeting people that are getting lots of agent calls, FISBOs, expireds, pre-foreclosures, estate sales, so many that are going to get a lot of calls. What a brilliant strategy. I love this. This is great.
Yeah, it's really fun and it like you kind of have to make it your own.
So once you get beyond that and you're kind of through that first initial conversation starting point, what's next? I mean, are you closing right for an appointment? Yeah, getting right down to
Usually.
it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that there is I'm a through and through I'm a salesperson. I have zero problem admitting that. People are going to say this is a relationship business. I'm in the sales business
Right.
and I also care about people. So
Yeah.
I would never ever do something that isn't out of the goodness of my heart for somebody. But
Sure.
um I'm still in sales. Okay. I believe that. I trust that. I think, all of it is sales. And when I go in, it is strictly for an appointment. And my track record is very like one appointment closes. You know,
Mm,
I go in for the appointment. These people are distressed. Like people have to understand this. Like I'm calling people that have major issues. Like we called somebody last week. I signed an appointment. I signed a contract on the first appointment.
wow.
Um, and I was there for about an hour. So, but it's because I find out enough information and I
Mhm.
can understand what it is that's motivating them. Um,
Sure.
Instead of saying, "Oh yeah, well, I'll follow up with you in a couple months." I don't
Mhm.
ever say that. There is a time and a place to do that. I will
Right.
say, I've closed deals that I followed up with for 3 years,
Mm,
but I'm like, when you're cold calling, you're looking for the couple yeses that you can get, and you should close those. And if
mhm.
you can't, then that's when you need to refine your script.
So let's break this down for an agent that's like, I've never really done this. I know I should be doing it. Like I've heard this before, right? I know I should be on the phone more. I know my sphere is my number one thing, but I need to have some more pillars around my business. what is your, if you don't mind sharing, what's your ratio to calls to conversions? Like, what is your personal, you're a master, of course, but
Well, yeah, I think we all can make improvements, but my call to close ratio, if I sit on the phone for an hour and I make 10 contacts, I should have set between 3 and 5 appointments.
wow, incredible. Those are huge numbers. Now,
Mhm.
how are you generating your lists? Because that's another huge issue. Like, where do these lists come from? A lot of people are like, okay, I'll do it, but where do I find the people?
Um, like I get agents that come to me and ask me this. It's so crazy. Your title rep is your biggest weapon of all time. And I love my title rep. She's amazing. She knows exactly what it is I'm looking for. And people forget that title is where the database of everything
Yeah,
is.
all there, right?
Yeah, it's so I talked to my title rep. There's a lot of different programs out there that you can use, which honestly, if you find something that's good, use it.
Right,
But sit down with your title rep and ask questions. Be like, hey, can you do this? And not all title reps are created equal.
right.
Um, they all are different. So just like agents aren't created equal, right? So that is my biggest thing. Sit down with your title rep. They can get you any and all information. They can't in the state of California, they can't get you phone numbers,
Mhm.
but that's kind of a follow-up for a later conversation for sure.
Yeah. And a lot of people are using, I know, like the Red X or propertyradar.com. I mean, there's definitely other systems out there where you can append that data once you've got the people list, and then append it with the actual phone numbers. So once you're kind of in this mindset, how do you have the discipline to do this every day? I mean, I know discipline's a big part of what you do,
Mhm.
right? And how do you approach discipline? Having the mindset to do this and do this and do this.
Wow. That's that's a tough one. I don't think that it's very easy. I mean,
Yeah.
there were some days where I would make 1,000 calls and not get a single connection or
Wow.
appointment or anything when I first started. And so the mindset is for me, and the discipline comes from like, I have a job to do.
Yeah.
And I am not like, I really, really, really love sales so much. I love going on appointments so much that and I love seeing crazy houses. That that is what drives it. That is what it's like. Who doesn't want to walk into an appointment, whether it's 8 o'clock at night or 7 a.m. and close
Yeah.
a contract?
Right.
That's where it comes from. It's like, yeah, the FUs and all that stuff, it sucks.
Hmm.
But it's just like it just gets you going. Like if
Yeah.
you get on a roll and you can just like let the BS go to the wayside, it is the most fun job of all time for me anyway.
Well,
Whether it's a listing agreement or buying a house or whatever it is, like I love going on appointments.
so I mean, I think it definitely is an alpha kind of personality. It's a hunter. You know, you're hunting for the kill of, and when I say kill, it's a bad term, but it is the thrill of the sale, right? I mean, it's the thrill of locking down a listing. It's the thrill of taking down a new offer. So I think that's right on the money. Now, you and I were talking before we started the interview about, some agents have a kind of a commission mindset, where you have a mindset of you're trying to build something, you're trying to build wealth, I'm assuming, and you're
Mhm,
trying to build, kind of a foundation under you, a financial foundation. So
mhm.
you're not necessarily chasing commissions. I mean, you'll take a commission, obviously,
Yeah.
but what else? What are you trying? What are you doing overall? I mean, what's your strategy?
I'm really I believe in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 year plans.
Hmm.
I came into the business 4 years ago and I'm right on track where I want to be. And my strategy is I just don't think that I think real estate has so much more to offer you. Everybody, like new agents come in and they want to flip a house. And so they think they go out and make commissions to try and do that. And then they get stuck in that cycle, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Um, and for me, it's like I would rather just let my license go and buy houses all day.
Hmm.
Um, and that is just something that is a learning experience. You have to walk into a deal and know what you have in front of you. And
Mhm.
it's a switch that goes off for people, I think, at some point in their career when they start doing that. And some people may never, and they build huge teams, which is also a wealth building strategy. But it's a lifestyle that I think everybody should have, the intention of buying real estate and selling it themselves so that
Mhm.
they really truly understand what it is that they're helping people do.
Yeah.
And what on the other side of the coin, the opportunity is so much bigger and the leverage is so much bigger,
Yeah.
utilizing other people's money. Leverage is everything, and it's a lot easier than people realize, and there are a lot more people out there willing to help you learn that than
Mhm.
they are willing to help you find a commission. Um, and that is, I think, in my opinion, everyone should be buying and selling real estate.
I'm a 1000% believer in what you're saying. I think, I always use the analogy for my coaching students is we should be buying one property a year minimum, and and holding that, and over 10 years statistically you automatically become a millionaire.
Yeah.
So there's no if, ands, or buts about it. And if you just have that commitment level, that I'm building that into my goal set, I'm buying one property a year minimum, hopefully more, then everything kind of goes on autopilot, which I think is great. I can't. Drives me crazy personally is to see an agent that's making a lot of money in real estate, but then is investing in the stock market or Bitcoin. That drives me crazy. Like, what are you doing?
I
You
could
are
not agree more.
inside the industry, right?
I could not agree more. I almost don't care about the stock market at all. I'm like, everybody is so into it during COVID and all this stuff. I'm like, you know what? It's cool. But real estate is a real asset. And whether it goes up or down, it's going to be there forever.
Right.
And if you can get consistent in your business, you will always, always, always be able to buy real estate.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's one thing that the younger agents aren't necessarily gravitating towards. They're not like being trained on this key aspect of we don't have a retirement plan in the industry. Our retirement plan is us, and we have to make it happen for ourselves. Otherwise, no one else is going to do it. What you don't want to end up is 10 years from now, is keep scratching, and keep trying to, make 1,000 calls a day and have no end goal. You got to have the end goal, which you're brilliant at this and you've done a great job. One thing that you talked about, which is I think is so important when you're making calls and you're at the beginning stages of your career, which I don't think a lot of people do, is letting go of outcome. And I think that's a big thing, right? Letting go of outcome. Isn't
Mhm.
that is that how you approach it? Kind of like I just got to do my job, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. You do have to let it go, and I think the reason why is because you're going to get people that hate you no matter what it is, no matter how great you are.
Yep.
You're not going to close every single deal, and you're not like you shouldn't want to. You go in with a mindset like even if I'm buying a house from somebody, I'm interviewing them as much as they're interviewing me. And I was actually in an appointment the other night that was a referral from one of my friends who she's like, my neighbor's trying to get me in touch with her cousin who's an agent. And I was like, I told her flat out, I said, listen, I don't compete for your business. I will tell you I don't work with buyers. And I'm here because you were a referral from one of my really trusted friends, but I will not compete for your business. And she said, okay, great, because I wasn't going to have you compete for it. So you have to be very, very honest about what it is that you want in a client. That is something that we forget as agents. We lose. We're chasing money. People chase money so bad and they will go so far. And I will too. I'll go knock on somebody's door if they ignore my call for 3 weeks.
Hmm.
But you have to understand that not every single client is worth it. And it doesn't matter if you're brand new or 20 years in, not every single client is worth it.
I agree. I love that the idea of leading with boundaries too. When you lead with a boundary, you automatically elevate yourself in not only your mind, but in the client's mind. They're like, oh, this is somebody that is like treats themselves with respect. And I think that is so important.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing, which is what you're speaking to exactly, is um, agents are live in fear of not having another client around the corner. So they latch on to these low level clients, right? And what you're doing is you're saying, hey, I'm not going to do that. I got the power to pick up the phone the next day and just go start killing it again, right?
Yeah. And, I know like when people first start out there, they're intimidated. There's all of this information and there's so many ways to quote unquote generate leads or business. And then they go join these teams and, they're getting Zillow leads and stuff like that. And it's really tough, right? I call it shiny object syndrome, which
Mhm.
I don't like to have. I just started an online marketing platform where I even had a website. I don't know how to do that. I hired somebody to do it, right? So um, they get so scared that they're not going to make a paycheck that they will show houses before they have a pre-approval in hand. So it's like you have to define yourself as the expert and
Mhm.
really make sure that you have a system in place that keeps your pipeline growing. And if you don't, then you should reevaluate.
I have a question for you. Are you also working a sphere of influence? Are you putting people into an incubation plan? I mean, are you, in addition to what you're doing on the cold call side? No, you're straight new calls every.
When I moved to San Diego, I didn't know anybody.
Yep.
I get your one-off referrals up from in Washington. I have a
Sure.
great agent up there that I really love that takes care of my friends and family. But here, I get referrals every once in a while. I have a
Mhm.
couple of like people that they do refer me business because I have made friendships here, but um, I'm not looking to work with buyers. I'm not looking to take listings either. I'm looking to buy houses and flip them and or wholesale them or hold them. Okay.
Mhm.
So that is something that um unless my neighbor's neighbor passed away and they come and tell me about it, you're not really going to find that through your friends. Very, very rarely.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's different, I think in the purchasing realm,
Yeah.
um, on this side of it.
Yeah, when you're in that kind of investor side of it, it definitely different. I have a question for you. So you worked in a team, which I'm assuming gave you a lot of Zillow leads, right? No Zillow leads? You were just all outbound.
No, all outbound.
Okay.
Yeah, I work on it. I am a part of a team. I am kind of like a partner agent.
Hmm.
So, somebody that I've done a lot of business with, he's actually the team lead. His name is Luke Middleton. We are the Middleton Group in San Diego. And he's allowed me, which, because we're partners, he's allowed me to build my own thing around myself. So I have my own assistant. I have, he has his team members. And we all work really well together, but he's not taking the agent's listings. They get all their own stuff.
Hmm.
Him and I are more so on the investment side of real estate, and they love traditional stuff, which is
Sure.
not bad. Good for them. They are good at it. They're better at it than I am. So they love that. So, like yesterday, I took one of our agents on a listing appointment that was a referral from a past client. And I let him know, like, Josh, can you take this deal? Because he is so good at that. It'll probably be a contingent sale. They want to sell and then buy. And I was just like, let people do what they're good at and don't
Hmm.
take it away from them. Don't take
Yeah.
their listings. I think these big teams, like, it's so crazy to me. Like, I'm like, you want to cultivate leadership, not a following.
Right.
And that's what this has allowed us. Every single one of us individually has our own thing going on.
What's interesting, I think, what you're saying too, is that when you have these teams, you've got to allow these agents to lean into their strengths, and a lot of some team leaders don't do that. They kind of pigeonhole people into a certain, like, you got to do this and this only, and that actually inhibits the growth of the team in a lot of different ways. So it's an interesting concept. I love it. Yeah, interesting thoughts.
Yeah, I
Now,
love it.
when you look at like 2020 being a COVID year, obviously,
Mhm.
did COVID impact your business? Did you have a better year, a worse year? Is it the same year? I mean, just curiosity wise.
I had the best year in real estate I ever had.
Wow.
Um, and it really catapulted me into like, all right, this is it. Like, go big or go home.
Yeah.
And it was so crazy when COVID first hit. And I don't know what your experience was, but I want to hear about it. I was in escrow to purchase a property to flip.
Oh wow.
And it like the news came on and everything just stopped and my hard money lender closed its doors. And
Wow.
I just remember being like, Bruce, I'm an escrow. This is non-contingent. He's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I was like,
I'm
are
out.
you serious? I'm like, and thankfully the sellers were so nice and everybody went through it. Like, and I was just like, oh my gosh, everything just stopped. And that's when I made the decision to hit the phones. I mean, I was prospecting like nobody's business. Nobody was really doing anything, but it built a huge pipeline for me. And so the end of 2020, it was just like one right after the other. And we were just closing, closing, closing. And a lot of people they just quit. You know, they're like, oh, I'm not doing anything. I'm not prospecting. You know, I'm not doing it. I'm not whatever. We couldn't knock on doors. So what's the best way to do it? Prospect.
Yeah. Well, I think your experience is what I see a lot of the, like I would call the alpha team leaders, alpha people. That you had two groups of people. Either people went into hiding and watched Netflix and played video games all day, or you had the other group that was like, I am going to go all in and increase my calls 4x.
Mhm.
And what happened was everybody had the downturn in March and April, but the people that went 4x, their business just boomed. And I think that's you had that common experience of the leaders really took a leadership role, which is very, very interesting. Our company, we had our best year ever. We did over $1 billion in sales, and
Wow.
better than any other company, any other time in our history. So, same thing. I mean, you just got to go all in with it, right?
Yeah, I freaking
Yes.
love that. Good for you. That's
Yeah, yeah,
amazing.
yeah. A lot of business to be had in our little tiny Southern Oregon town here.
Where
So
at?
we're in just over the border from California, just in Ashland and Medford. So
Oh
just
my
over the border.
gosh. I
Yeah.
have drove from San Diego up home. I've taken the 5,
No, you've
goes
been right
to
through us.
is the pass. Yeah,
So,
there's that little
yep,
chevron off the way.
yep, that's
That's
it.
where I
We're going
stop
under
to
the,
get gas. I've
absolutely.
been through there 100 times.
Yep, stop at Dutch Brothers, get a little coffee, and then move on, right?
Exactly.
Ashlee, now you mentioned that you have a mastermind coming up, like at the end of the year. Is that right? What are you doing
Yes.
there? Tell me
So
about that.
for the first time, I'm doing a mastermind with my team. We're going to get a house in Scottsdale and we're going to have everybody come for 3 or 4 days in October. And it's going to be everything about business development. And it's not going to be about um, it's going to be about cold calling. It's not going to be about shiny object syndrome. You know, I'm not going to teach you how to build a website. I'm going to teach you how to get real with your people
Hmm.
and how to scale your business and how to track numbers and set real goals with your team. And that's something that a lot of people, unless they are doing this at a high level, they aren't doing it at all.
Yeah.
You know, they don't track their calls, they don't record them, they don't do certain things. So in the investment realm, or if you're an agent, um, hit me up on Instagram or call me,
Hmm.
and I'll get you all the details. It's going to be really, really fun.
Great. I'm sure limited number of people, so you want to act quickly because how many people can you fit in a house, right?
Yes, it is a limited number of people. We're actually going to be kind of vetting people out about like where they are in their business. I want this to be high level.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll do something fun for everybody else on like a virtual thing.
Got it. I love it. How else can people get a hold of you? Is that the best way through Instagram, Facebook? Are you on Facebook or anything else? Yep.
Instagram, Facebook. You can call me. My direct line is 858-401-6927.
You've got to give that phone number out. I
Yeah,
love
well, it's fine. I don't mind. It's my business line,
it.
so.
Okay. Okay.
But
Gotcha.
yeah, if you send me a message on Instagram, I will definitely get back to you on Messenger. Greg and I message all the time on Messenger. And other than that, yeah, I mean, that's
That's spot.
basically the best way.
Awesome. Ashlee, you killed it today. You gave us a lot of great tips. I've written down a couple of pages of notes here, so thank you so much. A lot
Yeah.
of great information.